The opinions and statements made by the guests of the Success in Practice podcast are their own, and I do not endorse or accept responsibility for their positions. Any information given by myself or the guests is educational in intention and not to be taken as medical advice. If you choose to act on the content involved in the podcast, you do so at your own risk. Okay, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Success in Practice podcast. Going through the second season of the podcast, I did want to talk to people who I really enjoyed having on the first season, and my next guest is one of those people. Today I'm joined by Elissa O'Brien. Elissa is an osteopath and a mother of two girls. She operates out of Atrium Osteopathy in Ringwood and North Balwyn, Victoria. She studied at Victoria University and since graduating has completed many postgraduate courses including Osteopathy in the Cranial Field Fundamentals, the Face, Pediatrics, Visceral Techniques and the Rule of the Artery. She has also been lucky enough to lecture at the universities and at private teaching faculties and to present at international conferences. She's lectured about the osteopathic approach to tongue tie and stress in the mother-baby dyad to osteopath and other health professionals. Currently, or in 2024, to this current date, she began a graduate certificate in mental health to deepen her understanding of the emotional components that often accompany physical presentations. She has now completed that and looks forward to sharing her knowledge, some of which she will discuss today. And before I welcome Elissa, I just want to let everyone know, today she attended Raymond Perrin's course, which was very keenly looked forward to by many osteopaths in Australia. And she kindly turned down an invitation for a faculty dinner to join me for the podcast. So I feel very, very blessed that Elissa has joined me today. Elissa, thank you. And
Hi, Sami.
welcome to the podcast. I promise I'll come down to Victoria. I'm going to shout you a steak just to make up for that dinner.
I do like steak, so that would be good. Thanks, Sami.
Good. I didn't know. I was like, please let her not be vegan.
No,
I
I'm a
was like,
carnivore. Sorry,
that's something
everyone, I'm a
bad.
carnivore.
Yeah, good.
My children have
That's
gone through their
okay. No
vegan
need to
stages, but
apologise.
yeah, I'm a carnivore.
Yeah. So I guess this is our second, our second show together. And for those listeners who maybe haven't listened to the first episode, give us a brief background about you as an osteopath and what you're doing today. Like, just give us a brief history of you and what's going on with you right now.
Yeah, I thought I should go back and listen to that one just to make sure my stories were straight and I hadn't made anything up.
She's a
What
fraud.
what came up in my language, I kept talking about how I was adventurous, and I've been, my kids, my youngest daughter's 18, she's gone to uni, and I've been married a long time, and you look at your hobby and you're like, okay, the kids don't really hang around anymore. What are we going to do? So I went back to uni straight away, pretty much. October last year, I was enrolled at Vic Uni to do mental health, and I've done some traveling, just a little side hustle that Alana and I in our Atrium business have is that we actually run health retreats. We run wellness and self-care retreats because the thing that you want to spend more time with patients, and I have 45 minutes with people, and I try to instill self-care, and self-care is like I self-care as well. And you have to in this job, but we run retreats in Queensland, and this year we took an opportunity to go to Greece, and next year we're running a retreat in Greece.
Fantastic.
We just invite patients and they invite their friends, and we just go and we just look after them. And so that's a part of what I've done, but it also does tie into the mental health part of just that holistic, looking at people as completely whole humans with relationships and all the messy stuff they bring in to us, more than just pain.
Well, yeah, I think it's quite ironic, but also fitting that you're going to Greece. I think the Greeks know something about all this self-care stuff that we've probably missed.
Just
You
eat a
know,
Greek
like,
tomato. It's like you just sit and
yeah,
you eat a Greek tomato and you're like, why am I eating Australian tomatoes? I don't understand.
yeah. The funny thing about the Greeks, and shout out to all my Greek friends out there, is that obviously Greek civilization is known for its philosophy and its contribution to society and law and maths and everything, and we learn about these ancient philosophers and writers and Socrates and all this Pythagoras and that happened a long time ago, and it seemed like just things kind of just stagnated for a long time from the Greeks. And then they came out with the Greek salad. It's like this whole time they've been just working on the Greek salad.
Do you know the best thing about the Greek salad in Greece? They don't cut
Tell
the
me.
feta. They just whack the whole slab of feta on
They
top.
do. Yeah.
Like they work,
And
Australian Greeks work too hard. Like just seriously.
yeah, they just
Throw
wait.
it
And then
on.
as they scoop it out, they just get a bit of feta with it.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
the best.
So
The
no,
best.
I think the Greeks definitely. Well, that whole Mediterranean basin, the Greeks, the Turks, the Lebanese, the Cypriots, they kind of know some things about self care that we probably have yet to figure out. Things like siestas in the middle of the day and eating just good food, good fats, good.
I have to share. My business partner Alana isn't a big drinker, but she's very good with economics. So she's the
Yeah.
financial part of our business, and she worked out that if you go to one of those beach clubs, and
Yep.
if you have to pay to sit at the beach, and it's expensive to buy 2 cocktails, and she's like, just buy a bottle of wine, and you can just. So we brought day drinking into self care.
Yeah, right. So
I don't know.
see one of the things about those cultures too is that they've really integrated drinking alcohol with food. I think that's a bit different. It might be a little bit different than some of the Western cultures where we kind of drink for drink's sake.
Yes.
Whereas drinking in those cultures, in the Italian cultures and the Greek, the Lebanese, the Maltese, the Cypriots, there's always food associated with alcohol. It's
Yes.
never kind of done alone, and I think that makes things a little bit better. But yeah, there's something about it. There's something about all those traditions that have kind of made their way, and it's like research is catching up to it. Like research kind of always seems to
Yes.
catch up to it. But yeah, no, it'd be good. So if anyone wants to do that retreat, I guess get a hold of Elissa. That'd be great.
Yeah, you
to
just
go on
look
a
up
trip to.
atriumosteo on our Facebook page, and we put our next little adventures on there. And
Yeah.
it's just also, I mean, I think health practitioners should run health retreats. I think there's a lot of people less educated than us running health retreats. And, so anyway, what would I like to say about that? That's better than what
Well,
I just said.
I know. Andrea Robertson runs some.
Yeah, exactly. And
She does some.
but also I'm self-employed, and so if you're self-employed and you run a retreat, you basically get a holiday and you get paid to go on a holiday. So I get 2 of those a year now. So it's a good business
Yeah.
model too.
It is. It is. So I want to just ask you. I mean, we've done a little background into what you've been doing the last couple of years, but you've recently just completed your, I guess, certification with regards to mental health. Is that something that you're taking maybe as a standalone thing, or are you just integrating that into what you do in practice?
I was already being asked if I was a psychologist or a counselor by my patients, and
Yeah.
we spoke about it in the first podcast about just that ability to listen, actively listen. But I'll remind people that my ability to listen to patients came from actually not knowing what to do other than listen to them. And so, just learning that before you can put your hands on, or before you can answer a question, if you just sit and stare at them and smile nicely at them and breathe deeply a little bit while you're panicking internally about what to do, they're just talking. And then they're paying you to listen, so you might as well do that. And then if you do that long enough, you get really good at it, and then you can start, reflecting back. So it was, it's in my nature to be very interested in whole people. Also when we're at uni, there wasn't epigenetics. Epigenetics came into understanding when I was already practicing osteopathy. Before that, everything had genetic reasoning behind it. And then all of a sudden, there's a big announcement that our environment has such a big impact on our genetic makeup, and that our genetics are very clever, and that we can actually choose how we respond to the environment. And a part of choosing how we respond to the environment is choosing who we put out in our environment, and then choosing what we do with the people we put in our environment. So I think I've spent a lot of time listening to people talk about relationships, and I've heard them not being very powerful in their relationships, or I hear them not speaking up. And one of my rules would be, in a relationship, the other person has to know enough information about you so that they can treat you nicely, or treat you the way you want to be treated. And an example, and a patient reminded me of this the other day. A patient came in a little while ago, and she'd had an argument with a relative, and she walked in and she was telling me about the argument. She was really upset, and it was taking up time in the treatment, which was fine. But she was telling me her side, the cousin's side, the other person's side, the friend's side, the mum's side. And I said, hang on a minute. Just sit there a little longer, start that whole thing again, and I only want to hear what you think about it. And then she just told me in a really straightforward way why she was so upset, why she was affected. And I was like, why don't you just sit with that for a little bit and not, have that 10-person conversation in your head and everyone else's perspective. Just sit and think about what you want to do, who you are and how you're affected, and then make decisions from there. And so I think, the other thing is just telling patients, you're the person who came in to have a treatment today. You booked the appointment. Everyone else that's in your head or in your heart or wherever they're sitting, tell them to leave for a while, and you just turn up with me, and I won't judge you, because I don't have any invested interest in what they do when they leave. I just want them to get to know themselves better. So I think the relationship that people have with themselves and the relationship they have with other people, it immediately affects their posture. It immediately affects how they sit when they drive their car, how they sit at work, how they sit on the couch at night watching TV. These things really affect the patient.
Yeah, their sympathetic tone, especially, and the whole cascade of
the
events
lymphatics
from there.
there. The vagus nerve, the face expression, everything.
Yeah, what you said earlier, though, I think that if there's any younger practitioners listening, about just sitting down and listening and letting people talk, you might be going through some kind of anxiety about not knowing what to do. But usually, if you just let people talk, they unwind themselves enough for you to not have to do a lot. And it goes back to one of the things that I teach some of the students that I work with is, first be interested, then be interesting. So you have to first listen. You've got to be interested in people and interested in their story. And then you can be interesting. And when you're interesting, you get that connection with people, and they start connecting with you, and they like you, and you get more out of them. And what I mean by more out of them, you just get more results, more outcomes, more wins, for the patient. And that's kind of how you start the reputation building process. So I'm glad you said that, because I think that resonated with me. And it's funny how, we kind of get to the same thing, but through different means.
Well, the other thing, Sammy, is, do you tend to start at the same place with a patient? Will you tend to start at their feet, their pelvis, do you have a place you start?
No, I don't have a specific place that I start all the time. Obviously, there's a certain outcome that we're looking for in terms of a treatment for a certain condition. But when I'm kind of looking at the more overall macro picture, and then taking their maybe more neuro-emotional aspect of things, for me, going to the heart of the matter, no pun intended, but I like to focus in on the heart. And what I mean by that, that T1 to 4 area, the thoracics, the diaphragm. If I'm really focusing on kind of getting some of that neuro-emotional stuff, that's where I tend to start there on most people.
Yeah. If they're sitting, I will tend to do the same. I'll have my hand at the back of T1 to 4 and the front on the sternum. But generally, if my patients are lying down, whenever they lie down on the table, I stand at their feet and I just put my hands right over the top of their feet and their lower leg, and I just stand there for a while, and it usually really calms them down. I find it's just, and I haven't always done that, but it's just something I've started doing. I've got a good look at them when they're lying down. I can just kind of see them, and you can see lots of symmetry or asymmetry, but yeah, it's what I've
Importantly
started
too,
doing.
they can see you.
Yes,
They can see you
yes.
really clearly. They can see that you're in charge. They can see that you've got them, that you're looking after them, and that it's not like there's a voice coming from behind their head that they kind of can't see. I think that just makes it safe, and when people feel safe, they tend to kind of let go of a lot of their barriers that might be there in terms of treatment. So yeah, definitely being in front of them, at least somewhere they can see you, is definitely a good idea. I want to ask you about maybe what you were thinking, when you went down the mental health path. I know that you said that, you feel like that your kids are grown up and it's just you and the hubby, and you had something you wanted to kind of, fill your time with something to do, and you went back to uni. But I'm sure it's more than that. I mean, there's got to be a certain passion for that, knowing what I know, from the conversation I had with you. And so what kind of made you... I remember you actually asking some questions a little while ago on some of the, I don't know if it was some of the Facebook forums, you were asking, where do I go if I want to do X, Y, Z?
Yes.
How do we go about getting some kind of advanced practitioner recognition, or something of that nature? And so what made you go down the path of a grad certificate at Vic Uni?
Yep. I've done a lot of informal trauma work. I've done a lot of just, stuff you can get online from America. Vagus stuff, polyvagal theory, those kinds of things. And then, and I've been in practice 26 years. And I'm not interested in becoming a pediatric osteo. I'm a generalist. I will treat old people, young people, sports people, elite people, any people. And so I don't want to be an advanced practitioner in any of the things that there is to offer. But I figure every single person, every single day, has mental health in their life. It's something that is just sitting there, and it's not actually being spoken about. And then people talk about trauma. So when I went in and studied mental health, the first thing, when I last spoke to you, I think I was just starting my first assessment. And what you learn about mental health when you study the foundations is that it's health. It's like physical health. It's like osteopathic health. So I have easily just smashed out really good grades in this course, because it's all the language that we use. It's just defining how people's behavior is a normal part of life. People are allowed to behave in certain ways. Generally, most of the population has mental health. Very few people actually have mental illness and need a diagnosis, need to be referred, need to be medicated, need to be looked after. The same with physical illnesses, where, probably a disproportionate number of people actually run into that medical model, get diagnosed, then go down that strict medical pathway. But I think if we really promote mental health care and we promote looking at people as normal mental health and looking at what mental health needs are. It was just osteopathic language around health. And so I noticed, because I was on chat groups with other people doing the course, and they might be wellness teachers, or there were some nurses that were going off into the mental health nursing pathways. And they'd all come from this model that society has, which is disease-based and labeling-based, and like who has depression, who has anxiety, who has bipolar, who has... these other things. But you can just start with what is mental health and how do we live lives where we're promoting healthy, holistic lifestyles. It was like play school university. It was so much fun. So yeah, and I just finished that, and then they offered me, if I do 2 more subjects, I get the grad cert in adolescent and child mental health as well. And it's just learning how to engage children, how to let them speak to you, how to be a safe person, how to not judge, and then how to consider diverse groups in society. And also then, this is really cool actually, considering that you might have a diverse group, you might talk about a certain type of immigrant that's come into Melbourne over a certain time period and what their mental health struggles might be, having left culture or might have had to come here from war or something like that and have to assimilate to our culture. But then in that diverse group of 100,000 people, every single one of those people is one person. N equals one. Each person has their own mental health needs. Each person then forms relationships with people in Australian society that are different to the other people in their group. So it's like learning what diverse groups need and then learning that within a diverse group, don't put them all in a pigeonhole, because there'll be Indigenous people who have specific needs living in country Victoria and Indigenous people who live in inner city Sydney, and they'll have completely different needs.
But that, I mean, that's just like everybody though, right?
But it's not known. People don't
Right.
really think about it. Osteopaths think that way, but
Yeah.
other people don't think that way.
Yeah, I think we also, I mean, I don't want to get caught up too much in the identity politics of things. We're osteopaths and we're looking at health and finding health. And ultimately, I guess too, we need to treat the individual as an individual. And yeah, that takes into account their cultural background or their background in general. But you're right. I think grouping people into, or this culture has this kind of sensitivity or that culture has, I think that might be a bit too general. And it's better that you just treat people as individuals and ask questions, get answers, and then formulate your ideas based on that.
Yeah, see, osteopaths can easily become really good mental health workers because we treat people individually like that, and we really see them, we form relationships with them, we have the time to spend with them, and while we're treating them physically, if we have the skills, we can actively then learn mental health care. And I think it's really important to understand the difference between labelling trauma. So someone comes in and they're anxious. Do they have anxiety? They're probably just anxious. Maybe they've had a bad day. And so I think, that that's where I had gone. I'd gone off into this trauma model, looking into trauma diagnosis, how to treat trauma. And then I went into a very formal mental health foundations course. And I was like, oh, everyone's actually way more healthy than I thought. People who have had trauma 5 years ago might be having a bad day, but their trauma 5 years ago was 5 years ago. So, yeah, it just gave me a context of mental health. So
I mean, you're
I'll
right.
tell you my next step. I'll answer the question. My next step is that I'm talking to Osteo Australia about whether we can do something formal with an advanced practice pathway into mental health, where people could do the same very easy grad cert that I didn't have, that formal qualification, which is a health qualification, not a disease labelling qualification. And then maybe we could do something formally with giving people that advanced practice title in mental health.
Yeah, I want to just ask you some questions around your education and I guess get you to give some constructive criticism on what you've been through. You said that you did some informal education in terms of like online courses from the States and things like that. And then you've also done the more of a formal course through Vic Uni.
Yeah.
Can you compare and contrast, I guess, the experiences there? I mean, let's talk about nuts and bolts information. I know that university courses can kind of sometimes be drowned out by some subjects that seem, nice but not necessary, just to kind of tick the boxes for the university in terms of their particular criteria. In terms of nuts and bolts, what you actually use in everyday practice, how do you compare the online informal education that you had versus the formal education through Vic Uni? I mean, like, if I was to do both of those, would I get anything different or anything better out of a university or an online informal
I wish
way?
I had done the formal training first, because the course at VU online mental health care foundations is government funded, so it doesn't cost that much to do the courses. And you just do 4 subjects to get that graduate certificate. So obviously you've got to have a degree. All osteopaths would have a degree, so they can do that. And actually VU Online are very well set up. They have weekly webinars, and you get your own facilitator. So you get someone that you can call and meet with on the phone who helps with your assessments. And their admin's really good. So it's affordable, and it gave me that framework. Whereas before, I was just going down wormholes into trauma therapy. Trauma therapy is run by psychologists and psychiatrists. And I really think you have, it's like everything. You want to walk before you run, as you would say, Sami. And you want to have the foundations of that mental health care approach. Like, what is mental health? Where does it fit into Australian society? What government resources do people have available to them? How can I direct them to the resources? How can I assess someone in their mental health capacity? How could I speak to somebody's other healthcare practitioners about their mental health capacity? Those kinds of things. Really solid, really good things. So I couldn't recommend it enough, and people can easily reach out to me, and I'll talk about it.
So the course that you did through Vicuni, that was mainly online, or was it face-to-face? All online. Okay. And so was there anything that you feel that, I guess, was, I don't like to use the word unnecessary, but
nothing was unnecessary. The subjects
right. So the subjects are, right. So the subject's really more about just really giving you the nuts and bolts information that you can use in everyday practice. Great. That's good to know. So for the listeners there that want to maybe look at that, it seems like it's something that's very useful. I guess there can be some times where you go into a course and it's filled with some fluff around it.
Yeah,
but this doesn't seem like great.
You sign up for a subject, and they offer them in. You can do 4 subjects a year. You'll get a career counsellor actually, so that they guide you all through it. But you get 6 weeks to do a subject, and you hand in you do 3 assessments in 6 weeks. I learnt a bit of a hack where I start my first assessment in O week, because I'm a mature age and I don't muck around, and I'm living a life as well. So you have to get your assessment 1 done early, and then I apply for extensions for the next 2, because 6 weeks is not long enough to get your assessments done. But you just smash out a unit in 6 weeks, and then you can smash out the next one if you want.
Yeah, and roughly how many hours of your time did that take up per week, do you think?
Don't ask me.
Hold on. How many hours of a normal person's time would that have taken up? Now, not somebody who's going down rabbit holes and wormholes.
Yeah, I don't even know. No, I mean, my husband's very, very patient, and he watches a lot of TV while I study. I don't know. It was just, how many hours to write 2,500 words, or, do research into topics. But it's And do you want to just get a pass or a HD? I wanted to only pass, but I couldn't. I had to do well.
Oh, you're one of those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about, I guess, what is it that you've learnt in the last, couple of years of study, especially in mental health, that you wish every osteopath knew, that you want every person to know? Like, what is it? What's one thing that if you could just kind of give that information to every osteopath that they can go and apply into their practice tomorrow? What's one thing that you would share with everybody?
The way people respond to their environment is theirs. It's their response, and you can learn a lot from it. So now when patients come in, I can even listen even better, and I'm just listening to how did they respond? What do they need? Are they happy with if they're happy with their response, even if they've made 20 people angry, if they're happy with their response, I'm going to back them. I'm just going to be like, you do what you need to do to be a happy person. If you feel you need to have a hard conversation with someone, or you feel that you need to go and get more help, or whatever you need to do, to make strong decisions in your life that, you know, we're all alone. We're all our own one person living in a very complex society. And families are messy these days. So, you know, people need to have a very strong self-esteem and a lot of self-respect. And you've got to balance that with having the right people around you to tell you if you're really going crazy and you do need to get some professional advice. But generally, you know, people have to just be confident. I spend a lot of time now just reinforcing what you said is okay. You can say that to people. You can do that with people. Keep talking to people. Keep these relationships open. And I know kind of the things that people need in their lives to be healthy. You know, like we know people need to be healthy and active and eat well and, those self-care things. But then also, in the first module, you do learn a lot about self-care, and it's like celebrate the tiny little achievements. Like, you got up and you had a glass of water in the morning and you don't normally, well done. I'm happy with that good self-care thing. Or whatever you need to do, just celebrate your life, bring in happiness, be more mindful. Put the stresses in perspective.
I guess going back to maybe making things a bit more practical for the listeners. What's one thing that they could, like, give us a specific example of, I guess, one thing they could do tomorrow in the clinic, maybe change the way they communicate or say something that would, I guess, elicit a better response from their patients, something that's going to create a better environment for healing. What's one thing that people could do that would help them kind of elicit that healing response?
Listen to their patients, listen to what their patients are saying, and see if you can find clarity in what the patient is trying to achieve in their lives, in their relationships, so that you can help that person have, clear, good boundaries with the people they love. They can maybe be confident enough to go back and have a hard conversation with somebody, or just start a conversation with somebody, or know when to know, because we've got this added skill of we've got our hands on. So someone's saying, oh, I really like Auntie Jess, she's the loveliest lady, and meanwhile they're all rigid, and you're like, I think you don't like Auntie Jess, maybe we need to do something about that. Then you can actually feedback, tell me, what did you say again? What were you thinking about this? And, you can just kind of just ask them to dig a little deeper into their own experiences maybe, and you can just be that neutral sounding block. And I remind my patients that, even your loved ones, they actually have an agenda. They have their own agendas. They're all trying to achieve their own things in life. So someone like us as a manual therapist, but with the skill to listen and guide and support, I have no agenda there.
Hello everyone, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank everyone for watching and listening to the podcast. If you have received value from this episode, the kindest thing you can do for me is to like, share, follow and subscribe to the channel on whichever platform that you are listening on. If any of the conversations have resonated with you and you feel that I can help elevate your practice, you can find me at successinpractice.net. That is, the Success in Practice program can be found at successinpractice.net. The Success in Practice program is the signature program that takes a practitioner who may be struggling with retaining patients. They may not be certain about building effective treatment strategies, and they may feel somewhat anxious and doubtful about what they are going to do with a patient. And they are not really accelerating in the real world of private practice. It takes this practitioner and it turns their careers right around to the point where the patients have an effective diagnosis and a real treatment plan that they can take home. Patients are happy to book in multiple sessions with you, and they are confident about your abilities. And more importantly, you now have direction and are confident about your own abilities. The program streamlines how you operate as a practitioner. Guys, you should have been taught this at university, but you weren't. You may have been practicing for the last few years thinking there has to be a better way. There has to be a more effective way of engaging with patients and getting them results. Well, there is. And this is what the program delivers. Go to successinpractice.net and check out the options available to you. See where I can help you easily grow your patient list and finally earn the rewarding income that you deserve. For all the information on how you can reach me personally, check out the show notes. Also in the show notes, you'll find a link to the chat transcripts from these podcasts. These are valuable and a wealth of information. I really hope that you're enjoying the podcast. Guys, leave a comment if there's any questions on this episode. And please, don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to the channel. Now, back to the show.
No, I get what you're saying. I could relate. I had a patient today who came in and she's got a frozen shoulder. And I think I'm of the belief that those are highly neuroemotional.
Which shoulder is it, Sammy?
It's the left shoulder.
What's in the left upper chest cavity?
Well, we all know that. And so, she's quite anxious. She's about to go overseas back to her where she was born, and she's very anxious because she was raised by her aunt and uncle because she lost her parents when she was little. She didn't feel like that. She felt she had a very hard upbringing, and then she kind of got married and left. She kind of got married to leave the country, and and is now about to go back for the first time in 16 years and see these people. And her culture demands that she stay with them and do all these things. And she's just the anxiety. It's palpable.
What did you do?
Palpable.
What did you say to her, Sammy?
I didn't really say much. I kind of just asked, what's happening over Christmas? Oh, we're going overseas. I mean, I don't want to say too much of where she's going and so forth, just due to privacy. But, and I said, oh, okay, well, how that's going to be. I always assume that's a good experience. People choose to book a plane ticket and go overseas. So like, oh, that'll be fun. And I always say, I think that'll be good for your condition. I think just being back and connected with where you're from, I think is always a good thing. And she goes, oh yeah, maybe not. And then everything just started to come out. And so I just sat there and listened. Like, I didn't really say too much. I'm like, oh yeah, tell me more about that. Or yeah, how does that make you? Do you feel, when you talk, do you feel a bit tight? Do you feel a bit, and so things like that. But I'm not as trained in those things as you are. I just have a conversation with people and let things flow.
I think when and this wasn't necessarily my qualification that gave me this, but I think when I'm hearing people talking, I'm listening to their tone, the speed of their voice, I'm watching their breathing, their pupil dilation, other different things that you just get good at looking at when you're an osteopath. And you just see the changes as they go down a certain path, and then you know where they're going, and you can be that one person. We spoke last time about the intimacy of osteopathy, that intimacy of being one-on-one with someone like that. And they can be so vulnerable and they really trust us. And we are their person in that moment. We're their safe person. And we don't have to give professional advice because if we need to, we can refer. But just being that one person who, in that moment, we only care about their health and their state of mind. And I do a thing there with particularly vulnerable people. I mean, I have a business mobile phone and I will let them text. And I will tell them I've got a business phone and a personal phone. So if you text the business phone at night or at any time, I'll only look at it if I want to. But a text message to me doesn't cost a patient anything. And a quick little response to a text message doesn't cost anything at all. It's just a really quick, easy thing. And so I have that I've chosen personally to have that anyway, just that little bit of connection, and a lot of people really need it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, thanks for sharing that in terms of the advice for people to use, straight away in the clinic. So I want to move on, and I know I mentioned earlier in the introduction.
Just say one more thing, Sammy. Sorry,
yeah, sure.
That I will be doing a webinar and I will be doing a podcast for Osteo Australia, and I will be writing an article in Osteo Life, which I haven't really drafted yet, but that's a good point, Sammy, to put in there, what people could do straight away for mental health awareness. Thanks. Yeah,
I think just the practical application of it, because we see it every day, and I think the first step as a practitioner is to recognise that we see it every day, people think we just deal with, tissue and fascia and nuts and bolts, and, we do, and that's, we do that. But,
though, there'll be osteos out there who are not interested. I hear about
Yeah.
it from my patients. They will go to an osteo expecting someone like me. They'll go to an osteo with back pain and they'll be like, all they did was they treated my back. And I'm like, that's okay. That's what they
good
do.
start.
That's what they do. That not every
Yeah.
osteopath has to be interested. So
Yeah.
that's okay. But that's probably where, on your intake sheet, when you're taking in a new patient, maybe you just make sure you've got that little bit of what are your goals, so that
Yeah.
if a patient's after, like a lot of my patients are referred to me, they'll just say, I've had this chronic condition or whatever, but I actually just want to come in so I start to feel better. And so I'm like, what does feeling better mean? Because that's not going to be articulating your thorax necessarily.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. Not everybody will be interested in taking that path. I think people become more interested though as they become more experienced. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I think as you become more experienced, you become more interested, because it's undeniable. Like, you can't not see it once you have seen it a few times and you get a result. It becomes then hard to be a caring therapist and not go there.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We just expand on that one though, that the same thing. When you start treating and your hands aren't quite as good, they're not as experienced, you're getting to know what tissues feel like. You're building up your database of tissue memory. And but then you'll hit a sweet spot somewhere in your practice. Your hands will start knowing what to do, and then your hands will have a relationship with the tissues. And the tissues, you'll just have your hands on and you'll be chatting, and suddenly your hands are just doing what your hands are doing. And all of a sudden, your hands have an ability to make someone feel really relaxed. The tissues just let go. You're doing all this stuff that you had to really work hard at a year before that. And so there's actually such an addictive thing, not just to knowing someone feels better and they can walk out of your clinic more empowered, but actually just knowing that your hands are there as these beautiful, safe, intelligent tools that you have, that you can just have that ability to just make people feel very, very good. And yeah, you and I just skip to work for many, many, many years. We just love it. We could become business owners, or we could become, any other number of things, but we both want to keep doing hands-on, one-on-one.
yeah, definitely. We
treatments.
love being clinicians. I'm a clinician. I'm
Yeah.
always going to be a clinician, no matter what happens. So no, definitely love that. All right. Well, I want to move on, and I mentioned in the introduction that you'd attended Raymond Perrin's course today. It was the first day of your
Yes.
attendance. What led you to want to go and see him and what he has to offer? What were you seeing in your clinic that gave you some challenge and said, I need to upskill, and he has
Wasn't
the upskilling
wasn't
that you
that.
need? Like what?
It
what
was that,
wasn't that? Tell us what it
No,
was.
it was that Osteo Australia championed him. Osteo Australia put up the article that was in the Age newspaper. I'm assuming that the Age published his work, that he was getting great results with people, and then I'm assuming that the public called Osteo Australia and said, who's this guy? Because that's what happens. Apparently people get in touch with him from all over the world, and they're like, how can I get someone to do your technique? So, but what I actually went there for, and this guy completely won me over and turned me around, it's crazy, I was like, how do you come up with an osteo technique? Because I'm not actually, I don't think there's recipes in osteopathy. I didn't think that. There's no recipe. But he has got a technique protocol, and he has researched it, and he's got connections all over the world in really good research centres. And then he's written 3 books, and then he travels the world teaching, and then organisations like Osteo Australia pay him to come out here and do a tour. And that's why I went. I'm like, how do I become that? How do I create a
Right.
technique protocol, the O'Brien protocol, and then write 3 books? And if you want to come see me talking, you've got to read all the books, and you've got to, you
Yeah.
have to you pay more to be a licensed practitioner in his technique. But I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to actually pay the money and follow his protocol. You'll have to follow it his way. Very strict protocol. But the guy is lovely, and he's an osteo, and he's got so we did talk about this before, Sammy, but this guy did his master's or his thesis at the BSO. And he had to somehow, I haven't got his thesis, and I will get it soon, but he knew about lymphatic channels in the brain. He had read all the work that was around at the time, and he'd looked at the original osteo text. And he said what was there originally and what is not there now is an understanding that the brain has to get rid of waste somehow. And medicine had said there is no brain lymphatic system, and I congratulated him to his face. I said, well done for being one of those osteopaths, like the traditional osteopaths, who understood it because you'd seen it. And no one backed you. There was no research, but you didn't let it go because it was your truth. And he just held that for years until other scientists started finding lymphatics in the brain. And he already knew they were there. And so then he could just jump in and say, yes, I already wrote about that. And the guy's just lovely as well.
Yeah, well, I always say that the research is probably 15, 20 years behind what clinicians are seeing in the clinic.
Yeah.
Whilst my experience has been that there's very little that's new under the sun, when you make observations like he's made, I think other practitioners before him have probably made similar observations, but he seems like he's just been able to structure them and put them down. And I guess that's probably what AT still did. I mean, a lot of these principles of what we espouse as osteopaths, they're not new. And if you think they're made up by a person, a man, I think that you're probably off the mark there. I think truth is eternal. Like, truth is something that's either true or it's not. And if it's true today, it'll be true in 100 years. And it was true about 1,000 years ago. And so, AT still just took that truth and put it into a structure and gave it a name. The Americans are very good at doing something like that. And so, that kind of grew. And I guess Ray Perrin has probably done a similar thing, where he's taking a truth that other people have known before him, and he's held on to that truth. He's protected it, he's championed it, and then when the research caught up, said, I told you so, and now he's capitalised on it. So good for him.
He's a very clever man. It takes a very clever man to do what he's done. He's very intellectual. It
takes a lot of courage too. It's not just
courageous.
There's a lot of clever people out there, but he seems like he's quite courageous. So, because there's been many people who they see things in the clinic, and then they put a blindfold on, thinking that the research is showing this. The thing that's pissing me off right now, I'm getting this, this is probably, we're going down a little rabbit hole here, but I'm happy to go down the rabbit hole with you, Elissa. I see a lot of this stuff with multifidus now. Multifidus and back pain.
Oh, I love
it's
this
just
topic.
like, you know what, like we heard it about 15, 20 years ago with transverse abdominis, and how that was the root of all evil in terms of back pain.
The myth of core stability, Sammy.
Yeah, the myth of core stability, and that they tore that to shreds, and that just became now nothing. And I would argue that the whole multifidus phenomena now is going to be, once they've sold the courses and have done, made their money out of it, they're going to be, it's another gravy train that is going to take us probably nowhere quick.
Yeah.
And so, I'll challenge anybody that wants to, I guess, talk to me about that, to come on the podcast. The platform is yours. If you want to have a discussion on this, I'm happy to do that. But, it's like we isolate this muscle, or any muscle really. I mean, you could be talking about whatever you want to talk, whichever muscle you want to talk about. It's like,
Sammy, were you going to the gym in the 90s? Were you a gym guy in the 90s? So I started work in 99, and guys then had huge buys, massive buys, no legs. And I just used to take the piss out of them, honestly, because they'd come in, they're massive, massive guys, big abs, big chest, big arms. I'd be like, dude, what's holding you up? Like, they did not have glutes. So, I mean, I was way ahead of my time because, like, you got to balance those buys with some glutes, or you got to get some hamstring, quad tension going on. You can't just be all top heavy. And it was just hilarious. And so that's where they were. Then everybody got into the quads and into the glutes and, but, I mean, you've got to be a whole person. I mean, your wife's a podiatrist. She's probably going, why aren't we all working on our arches a little more and moving our toes around better? And, strength might come from the relationship between the big toe and the soleus. I'm not sure.
Look, I mean, whatever it is, but we've been there and done that, and we don't learn our lesson. And I would not be upset if the physios and the exercise physiologists went down that way, because that's the way they go down. Like, that's what they're looking at. I would actually have not a problem. But we have osteopaths that get caught up in this stuff. They jump around on a Swiss ball for a few years.
I want to say,
and then they.
I want to say this thing about that. I do say that if you want to have strength in your back or in your legs, or if you want to have strength anywhere below the thoracic diaphragm, then you'll have to have a relaxed thoracic diaphragm so that you can actually get blood flow past the diaphragm. So if you're sending patients to work harder on a weak pelvic floor, which I've never met a weak pelvic floor, I've only met a tired pelvic floor. And if you're not telling your patients how to breathe properly and relax and get their ribs moving so there's blood flow going into the place that you're asking them to work, they will not be able to work. That disc will not be able to be healthy, and you're setting them up to fail. So we all need to release thoracic diaphragms and the thorax and the upper lumbus.
And the cervicothoracic diaphragm and that that whole CT junction, and then you got to come. It's just that your scalenes, and then it's like, what's more important? Well, nothing's more important. It's all important. Like, what do you and this is what kind of gets me, because it's like, well, let's look at the multifidus and how we can make that stronger. I'm like, well, why don't you look at making the entire system stronger? Yeah. And the multifidus
if people want to dive into that, into really good, easy research, and I learnt a lot about the thoracic diaphragm at uni, had really good teachers teaching me about it. Bruno Bedoni does really good research, really easy to read research papers about the diaphragms, the fascia. It's really easy stuff. He's an osteo. But, on one of your other podcasts, you were talking about how osteopaths can go and teach other practitioners, or we can work with, other people. And there's a lovely guy that runs basically a myo clinic. He rented a room from me for a while when he was first graduated as a myo, and then he set up his own big business and he employs physios. And a little while ago, he got me to come and do some education for these people. So mainly physios, some podiatrists and some myos. And so I love talking about the thoracic diaphragm to these people. And I just started, what did you guys learn about the diaphragm at uni? None of them had learnt anything. The physios had not even been told about the diaphragm. So I'm like, well, any osteo new grad is already winning, because I'm sure they've heard of it and I'm sure they know how to use it. And that's a little secret in there, and it's connected to so many, you want to do visceral work, release the thoracic diaphragm. You want to settle the heart down, release the thoracic diaphragm. It'll probably kick you in the butt a few times if you if you don't listen to it and you over relax it, or but that's okay. Patients deal with your early mistakes as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, you've touched on a good point, and I guess my point in what I was trying to say, it's like, we treat based on principles, but then we go and do rehab based on isolation, and either we're correct in the way that we think, or we're not. Like the way, when I say about the way that we think, I mean, people can take those principles and apply them differently and think about them differently, and that's a problem for the practitioner, but it's not a problem on the philosophy. And this is what I always say: if the philosophy is not applied properly, it may not get you the result that you're after. That's not a philosophy problem; that's a practitioner problem.
I know.
And it's good
I
for
know
the
there are
practitioner to
people out
realise
there.
that. You know,
Yeah, I know there's people out there with good businesses earning money out of rehab, particularly rehab, earn a lot of money with rehab. And a lot of money with ergonomics. But when I first started, there was a big shift in office workers having ergonomic assessments done. And I tell you what, my business took off because people who'd been sitting at a desk with their screen to the left for 25 years, and then it got shifted to the center, they all had so much pain for so long. And it was so obvious to me. It was like, well, you're all like, you don't know what you're doing anymore. And then but with rehab,
seems fairly obvious.
Rehab was not a big thing when I was at uni, and I'm pretty sure it would be Brian Nichols. You would have heard his name come up quite a lot in these podcasts, and he's so good at giving you very complex things in a very easy way to remember, and I'm pretty sure it was him. Rehab is just taking what's the patient's goal? What do they want to do? Little old lady who wants to make a cup of tea. She's got to have everything where she can make that cup of tea easily, and it's a part of her social life. You're going to rehab her if she falls and breaks her, wrist, and then she's got to get back to making a cup of tea. So that doesn't involve multifidus. That involves that lady having the confidence to get back and do her job. You've got a kid doing a paper round and he gets knocked off his bike. Again, I don't know about multifidus, but I do know that he needs to get the confidence, get whatever he needs to do to ride the bike. So rehab is taking the complex task that the patient really wants to do and figuring out what is getting in the way of them doing that task, and then giving the tiny little steps so that they can safely get back to the complex task. And again, there's not going to be a recipe for that because every person has a different way of achieving the goal.
Yeah, well, you can use the framework of self-regulation, though, and structure and function to understand that.
Yes.
You don't, there's no template, there's no if you have this, you do that. And multifidus may be involved, but it's not involved by itself, and so, in the process of you getting this little old lady to be able to make a cup of tea, her multifidus might just have to kind of be involved in whatever it is you're trying to do. But if you're thinking at that micro level and you start to isolate things, you're going to get into a bit of trouble because the body is the body's a lot smarter than what we are. Sometimes we get a little bit arrogant, thinking, if I just get that left semitendinosus working a bit properly, we can get them back on the field. And I'm like, no, the body will do that. You just give them the task that you reverse engineer the task that you're trying to get them to, and let the body work out how it's going to apply that throughout itself.
I think what you would do and what a good osteo would do is they would do that little thing that the patient is expecting, and then they'd quickly run through the whole body, do a quick scan and see what else they can find. And then when they find that other little thing, they'll know enough to say, that's what's also not quite tweaking. That's that other little thing. And it could be something really distant. But yeah, I've met particularly older women who fall in the garden. I find if they fracture their wrist, then they really have to work through their hips, because then the next thing that will happen, they'll be slightly, they'll be compensating with that wrist off to the side. And then usually the other hip is already a little bit, either hip's probably not great, and then all of a sudden they've got hip issues, back issues, and so you can't just rehab the lady's wrist, you've got to rehab the whole lady.
Yeah, that's osteopathy, right? You got to rehab the person, not the injury. Yeah. And so and that's why a lot of these like I said to you, a lot of these isolationist kind of, once it's transverse abdominis, then it's multifidus. Tomorrow it'll be, longissimus or something like that. And, like I said, we look at these people and we get them, we bounce around on bouncy Swiss balls and try to get them to do these. It's just, frustrating because I understand physiotherapy and exercise physiology going down that path, but osteopaths are just forsaking their own philosophy, their own principles.
Yeah.
to either, I don't know, look good or because maybe they haven't thought about it. They haven't thought about how it can be applied. And so because they haven't thought about it, they just go, well, that guy looks like a guru and he's doing it and he's got a title and I'm just going to do what he says. But, think about it. Like, critique it, think about it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of confidence to have a patient limp in with a left knee pain and for you to say, well, I think the most jammed up part in your body is your right clavicle.
Yeah, or your right ankle.
Yeah, you're right, whatever it is. And you say, and I will do this. I will say to people, I have a process of diagnosis, and we call it the, working diagnosis. It's a guess. It's an educated guess of what's going on. I hope I know. You get better at it over time. I used to say to people 4 treatments to get a diagnosis. That's what I used to say when I was a new grad. Now I hope to have it in the first one, or a fairly good idea. But then if I'm going to honour my diagnostic skills and my clinical reasoning, and I decide it's the clavicle, I will tell the patient, this is my plan. Come back and tell me I was wrong. Text me tomorrow and tell me I was wrong. That's absolutely fine. But I'm the practitioner and I have to know what's going on. And if I don't treat that right clavicle today and you come back for 8 treatments and I forgot to treat it, then that's on me. And, I wanted that self-regulation thing is actually so important for physical health and mental health. I did touch on it in the first webinar, that ability to have a situation with a really stressed family with this, crying baby, and just for me to be the person who takes hold of the breath and calms the breath down for everybody. But I think when people come in and they don't know much about their body, it's pretty funny, teaching lay people about anatomy and they have no idea about anatomy. They'll argue with me that surely they don't have ribs at the back. I'm like, whatever. They just don't know, and that's fine. They haven't been taught. I actually have written a 3-hour anatomy. I call it the mind, body, breath immersion, and I have to deliver it again. I just teach lay people all through their body and how they can connect and breathe into those different parts, and people love it. It's really good. But part of regulation is that a patient brings in a scary, painful thing that's letting them down in life. Their body's letting them down. They're not achieving what they want in life. They bring it to us and we say, I understand. I know what's going on with your body and we're going to be able to sort this out. And so immediately they've got someone confident and on their side helping achieve their goals. And osteos are way outside the box. We know really good functional anatomy stuff, and usually we're pretty okay being, pretty out there. So we'll make this good diagnosis and we help the patient, and then the patient can take that co-regulation with the osteo out into self-regulation and feeling safe on the sporting field or in their kitchen or wherever they need to feel safe. The environment's jumped out, like something's jumped out and injured their hamstring, or something's happened and the world isn't safe anymore, and they bring it to us and we explain it to them. We're friendly and supportive, and then send them back out to be brave.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to highlight to patients, and I guess it's something that it deserves to be highlighted even amongst the profession and kind of reiterated, is that self-regulation is something the body does. It's not something the practitioner does.
Yes.
And that's important. It's really important. We think that we're fixing something, or something's, that whatever we're doing is, we're not really doing that. The body is the one regulating. You're just moving things out of the way sometimes.
Yes.
And even sometimes you're just kind of encouraging and letting the body do what it will. Like, when you see a problem, for example, in the foot, and that's affecting the lower back, and you make certain changes to the foot, and then some of my students will say, well, wouldn't you then have a look at the, like work all the way up and go into the thoracics and do everything? I'm like, no, just give the body a treatment just to see what happens and see how it's going to kind of work its way through the body. And then, like, you can always do more. You can't always do less. And so if you need to do more, you'll learn that. But, it's like sometimes you can over-treat and thinking that you're trying to do the best thing, but you're not. You're not allowing the body to actually, go through that stress recovery adaptation cycle and really have it do the healing. So we think that we've got to get in there and do the healing ourselves, and you're really not. The principle of self-regulation belongs to the body. It doesn't belong to the practitioner.
So physically the body self-regulates because the body's always aiming to return to homeostasis, best possible function. And Dr. Still told us that, patients are intelligent. The patient's body is trying its best. It walks into your clinic in the best shape it can. And people actually try hard to present well in the clinic. Don't you say, I'm going to look at your posture, and they stand up as straight as they possibly can, even if they're in pain. So understanding that person their body is behaving in the most intelligent way, but in terms of mental health and supporting the mental aspect of that patient, mental health aspect, it's really important to know that they will co-regulate to the confident person in the room. And something that if you get a tradie around to your house, you get the tradie that comes in and, they just got to replace some light switches or something, and they say, oh, your wiring's shot, it's going to be hard. You tell them to go away. And so you get the one that walks in and says, easy, half an hour, I'll fix it. And that's the same with us. If your patient comes in and you say, this is good, I can do this. I've actually had patients who have chronic pain. I actually treat a psychologist at the moment, and I was treating her, and she actually was a psychologist with anxiety. And so I was treating her for all these restrictions in her back, and I was talking to her about, she's actually a very kind person, and in her personal life she kept getting pushed around, and I'd always say, that's too kind, that's way too kind. And then after a little while, she just said this funny thing. She said she'd seen another osteopath before me, and she just said, Elissa, you're not scared by my pain. And I was like, no. Should I be scared? I was like, no, I'm not. She said, no, I can tell. You just treat me. And then when I come back, you just treat me. And she said, I feel like the last person I saw was actually scared of my pain. And I was like, okay, no, I'm not. No, bring your pain here. I love it. That's what I'm happy to see your pain. Yeah. So that's a funny comment, isn't it? That she'd gotten from another osteopath. Some kind of, they were scared of her when she came back in pain. I thought, well, I'm glad they weren't her best practitioner.
Hello everyone, just a quick break to give you some information on where to best find me. The first place is the private Facebook group called the Successful Practitioner Pathway. I've set up this private group as a place where practitioners can go and get tips and advice on how to best accelerate their practice and improve their clinical practice skills. The second place to find me is at successinpractice.net. That is where the Success in Practice signature program is housed. You can find more information about me and how I can best help you achieve success in your practice. So, the two best places, the private Facebook group, the Successful Practitioner Pathway, and successinpractice.net. I will link to both those places in the show notes, so for more information, please see the show notes. Now, enjoy, and back to the show.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think, confidence breeds confidence. So ultimately the patient wants you to exude some of that so they can kind of cling on to it and see the light at the end of the tunnel. And once they see that light, things become a little bit easier on their structure. Things fall apart and things let go.
To drive that point home, when I wasn't confident, when I didn't know what to do, I didn't do anything. I just sat and listened.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that earlier. Yeah. Okay, I want to, move on to ask you a question about, the value you place on palpation and the palpatory skill set that an osteopath needs to have. And, I'll get you to comment on that first, and then I've got a couple of follow-up questions on it. But it seems to be there is a trend within, especially, other allied health professions where they're moving away from hands-on manual therapy. That's fine. I think better for us. But what value do you place on palpation and the palpatory skill of the osteopath? And And what would you like to tell your colleagues in terms of, the value that they should be giving it to?
We should lead with it. It's what we are known to be really, really good at. We learn to have good hands. So in America, they will talk about a pedigree, an osteopathic pedigree. So how many osteopaths away from Dr. Still your hands are. So, I've got a friend who, Rachel Brooks, who's edited Roland Becker's books. So she's worked with Roland Becker, and he learnt from Dr. Sutherland. So, that's the pedigree of osteopathy, they say, is handed down hand to hand. So you actually want to get around, and younger osteos, or even, I love it. I just love seeing other osteopaths, how they use their hands, how they hold their whole person. So I think, lead with that. That has to be our thing. They should be I don't know if they are teaching that in the universities, but just as many hands-on different techniques as you can use. I've got a few different things on the way. I really want to keep teaching palpation. I think there's one thing that I love when I've done a fair bit of teaching before, and I love when you see a student and you might have learnt, you've done a lecture and there's a certain prac and there's a certain outcome from the prac, but the student has this ability to feel a certain tissue layer, and it's like they're at home there. It might be a fluid layer or a membranous layer, and they're just sitting at home there. So they're not necessarily getting the technique the way it's been taught, but you can actually say, hey, what you're feeling is your skill. And you can actually sit with your skill set, and then you'll be your own kind of osteo. And the only way you really empower that is by sitting and just letting your hands feel things and not rushing around and not thinking that you have to constantly do. You don't have to do 10 articulations, 5 HVLAs and 6 METs on every patient. So did that answer the question? I think palpation needs to be taught more and learnt more.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'd add to that in saying that, there is an aspect of talent to it. I think everybody can build their palpatory skills, but I do really feel that some people do have a certain knack for it. They have a certain talent for it that is hard to, I guess, train. You can build on that talent, and some people, even good thing about it though, even if you find that palpatory wise the talent isn't as obvious, it's something you can get with time, and so that's one aspect I probably would add to that. I think that there is a talent there, a talent aspect to it, but also I want to ask you, why do you think? I think amongst especially the professions that I guess where, if you want to call it competing in the marketplace, the physios, the chiropractors, the exercise physiologists don't touch anyone, but the myotherapists as well, I guess. Comparative to them, we've got still a lot of hands-on education. Like our education is still very much hands-on. Why aren't we positioning ourselves as experts in palpation? I know the research is a difficult one, the inter-rater reliability of things. But in saying that, why do you think that, people, I look at websites a lot when I do the podcasts and I do my research. I jump on the practitioner's website. I kind of find out what you write about yourself and what you do. It's rare to see somebody that they'll say that, osteopaths are university trained and they're great at listening and they're great at, this, and they may help you. And obviously there's all that language there, but I've never heard anyone say, osteopaths are really good at palpating, and palpating actually means putting their hands on people and feeling what problems or what, I guess, health issues you may have in your tissues. I've never read that. Even it's not on my website. So why do you think that osteopaths are not going harder on that?
They're trying to be like everyone else. Maybe, yeah.
Because I think we need to go a bit harder there. People are looking for that touch.
I
There's
agree.
definitely research to show that just touch itself is therapeutic.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be touch that has to correlate with another practitioner. I could
No.
feel one thing, you could feel another thing, and we could
Yeah.
still have a therapeutic effect.
Yeah.
And so, given that our education is heavily loaded with touch, why aren't we doubling down on the fact that we're really good at palpating? I think that's probably somewhere something that we're missing.
Do you know, I would say, I treat a lot of other people's patients as well. A lot of, Melbourne people practitioner shop and all of that. And I suppose, like, people tell you why they come back to you because they want you to keep being the person they're coming back to. And I think that I do less techniques than a lot of other people. I think I hold people a lot. I hold people, in a comfort space a lot, and I've got my hands on the whole time. And like, I've got people who say if I come in here and, like, they won't go to a psychologist even though I say they should, because if I hold on to their head or thorax, or we can hold on to people's hearts, can't we, Sam? We can hold on to a heart. We can actually feel the heart working. We can feel the lungs working with the heart, for instance. And they start talking because you're holding them. But then I had a patient the other day. I just met her first patient, and as I was kind of, when you talk to a patient about something else so that you can distract their brain from their body so that their body relaxes, I was distracting her with just chatting, and she interrupted me, and she interrupted and said, "Elissa, when your hands are on, is my body talking to your hands as well?" Oh, I've just done something to my volume. I hope that hasn't mucked up the thing. Yeah, and sorry guys. Is that all right, Sammy, the volume? Did it change?
That's fine. Volume's good.
Oh, good.
No.
Yeah, so she knew that her body was doing something with my hands and my personality was doing something else. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
Let's just
I
be
would
brave.
definitely.
Let's make osteopathy great again by being brave. And do you know there's a funny story that my kids say? My kids say that when I'm old and they dump me in a nursing home, they're going to get phone calls from people saying that your mum's touching people. Inappropriate. And I'll be like, "Sit down. I'm your osteopath." And
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So what do you think happens then to practitioners who don't see the value in the palpatory skill set? Like, that's happening. That's happening, right? It's whether we like it or not. Physiotherapy's gone down that way. I had a chat to a physiotherapist on the podcast, Natalie Perkins, and she's quite upset that there's no more manual hands-on training for physiotherapists.
Yeah.
We know exercise physiologists don't touch anybody.
Yeah.
Chiropractors, from the experience that I've spoken to some of the students that have come through, their main thing is mainly manipulative and less palpatory. And so,
why don't
we're not far off. What's going on? I mean,
why don't we say, like, pain science is sexy, something like, maybe pain science is really sexy, maybe like evidence-based medicine is, really attractive to people because you can back it all up. I have I mean,
there is good evidence. There is good evidence to show, like I said, that the therapeutic touch is therapeutic.
Yeah. I mean, there's
good evidence
to say,
there.
Yeah, you can say whatever you like with evidence. There's evidence to back up most things, and if you've done enough stats, we did a lot of stats at uni before we did our masters, and you can pick apart any research paper as well.
Yep.
Like, you'll always find fault in the evidence base. I think you don't make as much money being a clinician, do you, Sammy? Like, if you've got how many patients you can treat. I don't know. You make more money if you can run an exercise class or up.
Yeah, I guess yeah. I mean, you probably could if you want to do a class. I don't know if that's the main motivation. I think that I think there's Tom Barry said it when I spoke to him. I think we're losing the joy of osteopathy. And that joy comes from just having a connection with patients, and that happens through palpatory touch.
Yeah.
And so for some reason, whether we're not getting the clinicians that understand that in the universities to teach younger practitioners, because it's something you need to develop. It's usually, I mean, you'd remember back in your university days, it's the first thing you do. It's literally the first thing you do. You just put your hands on people.
Yep. Tissue layer palpation. Yep.
That's right. And so, and the reason why it's the first thing you do is because it's so important, and it needs that needs constant reinforcing. I don't know. I don't know if they have practitioners there who are constantly reinforcing that. And I don't know if some other things are coming over the top of it. I'll talk to some people who are in education and ask them the question, but
do you know the other interesting thing is that, you know, I would probably have a reputation as an indirect, probably a cranial osteo. A lot of people would probably put me in that box, but I love HVLA. I really like it. And I did Julie and Craig's course, joint play course, HVLA course. And you have to be really good at palpation to be really good at HVLA. Like to be good at it. And so I would HVLA a lot of necks that a lot of other people don't, because I feel really confident in my ability to palpate, and I don't have to lock a joint up to get you know, to be really successful. And I also know that, you know, I might not have to get a cavitation to be successful either. And so a lot of patients will only trust me with their necks, or it's like just sitting there, that C23, and it's like, what? Has no one done this? And it's like just sitting there, and you can just get it done really easily. So
what do you think people miss out on when they don't put the value on the palpatory skill set that you think that they should? I mean,
no, you're right, Sami. They don't.
That's the question but that's the question that I have for you, really, is like, you know, what do you think they miss out on? They miss out on the joy, but clinically, what do you think they're missing, you know, when they
the tissue feedback, that engagement, that you've actually done, like, do something, make sure you know what you're going to do, plan it, and then do it, and then wait and see what the body does in, like that, as you say, self-regulation. Let the body have a response to you and feel the response, and then, and then enjoy it. Slow your techniques down. Yeah, you don't. I think people probably do way too much. I think. I also think there's soft tissue technique. You know, there's holding onto a muscle, fascia, whatever it is, soft tissue structure, and holding onto it and just letting it breathe. You know, there's that, instead of just rubbing it. You know, you know, trying. Yeah, I think. Oh gosh, I love thinking about the trapezius muscle, and how a lot of people would work so hard on that trapezius muscle, but the trapezius muscle is innervated by the spinal accessory nerve, isn't it? And that runs through the jugular foramen with the vagus nerve.
Yep.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I think these things and I think, oh, did I get that wrong? And so then if you're actually wanting to get the trapezius muscle to let go, don't rub it. Like, actually have a think about what that muscle, why it's doing what it's doing. Yeah, and if you just dig your elbows into it a lot, it's probably just going to not be very happy with you. It's not going to let go. It'll let go for 2 seconds, and then by the time the patient's in their car, it's back up again. So, you know, what have you done? But yeah, teach that person about, like, hold on to that person's trapezius, hold on to the clavicle, hold on to the scapula, hold on to the SCM, hold on to all of that, feel what it's doing, and just feel what holding on to it does. Because although the patient is self-regulating, they're self-regulating to you as a fulcrum of health and knowledge and safety. Yeah,
good points. I guess the last question, or one of the last questions that I have for you, I want to give you an opportunity first, before I ask you this last question, is to tell us more about the webinar that you've got planned with Osteopathy Australia. I know we touched on it a bit earlier, but can you give us some more, I guess, details about what people can expect with that, and then maybe anything around maybe timing and when you're hoping to have that ready?
It'll be happening in March. I think that I'm going to do the webinar and a podcast, and Rebecca Baxter, she's an osteo in Brisbane. She's going to be interviewing me. She's a really funny and clever lady, so I think that'll be fun. We want to just expand people's awareness of mental health and let them know how easy it is for an osteopath to bring that into their practice if they're interested in it. But I want people to know that you actually need, I wasn't aware enough that I needed that education, that we didn't get enough of that education. If you just go looking for it out there by yourself, again, I'll use that word, all the sexy stuff is trauma, how to treat trauma. But why don't we treat health, mental health instead of mental trauma? So I think that's the main, that's how to identify. Gosh, I have patients who go to other practitioners and are traumatized as well. So, and sometimes practitioners will think they're trauma informed because they might have had a similar shared experience, and they might think that they're empathizing with the patient, and actually they don't know when to just,
back off,
do something else.
Back off and listen.
Trust the patient. Don't dig into the wrong stuff.
No,
see those warning signs.
All right. Well, I guess people will look out for that. I'm sure that Osteopathy Australia will send out emails and notifications and so forth. So good luck with that, and we'll be, I guess, encouraging you to do really well there. And I'm sure that if people do join that webinar, they'll get a lot out of it. I guess then my last question for you is more to do with the current state of the profession, and what do you think at the moment, what opportunities is in front of us as osteopaths? Where do you see something where we're not taking advantage of, that we could be doing a lot better as a profession to kind of move osteopathy forward? And when I say forward, I mean forward without obviously losing the essence of what we do.
Okay. We've got a really good knowledge base of osteopaths in Australia. I think that, when I was a young osteo, I knew that I had to go and find mentors. I just knew I did. I got a good education. I met a lot of good osteos. But then when you're by yourself, if you set up your own clinic or you're in a small group, go and utilize those osteo elders. If I call myself an osteo elder, I turned 50, so I'm probably there. We really enjoy mentoring. You love mentoring, Sammy. Our doors are pretty open to observers. My patients love having observers. But I think maybe I can put it a little bit back on the students, because the students are buying the courses. They're signing up. When I signed up for my grad dip, I was paying for it, so I wanted to get the most out of it. I think those students might have to somehow figure out what they're missing out on, instead of just letting themselves miss out on it. Maybe get out there and educate themselves, and then maybe ask, I'm listening to Saeed's podcast and his beautiful relationship with Ray Myers. That was a big loss. That was a huge loss for osteopathy. Melbourne's saturated, right, with osteos or people who have a degree in osteo, and maybe working in other fields as well. But then maybe some of these new grads that aren't filling up in Melbourne, maybe go to Albury, go to Sydney, go to these places and, get out there and expand it that way. Yeah, I don't know why we're leaving the profession. That's a shame.
Do you think there's an aspect at the moment now where I guess people are using osteo as a stepping stone rather than an actual endpoint?
Yeah, and I don't really know why, because there's a lot of good osteos out there, and there's a lot of I know a lot of people.
To clarify that point, do you think people see osteopathy as a stepping stone to maybe doing something else in terms of health, And I'm not talking about niching down. I'm talking about doing osteopathy and then not really practicing and just going into academia.
Yep.
Doing osteopathy, not practicing, and then doing another, becoming a physiotherapist or an exercise physiologist or a whatever. So do you think that now, because I know in my generation and likely your generation that we saw it as the end point. We put it up there on a pedestal and we were really happy that we were there. Do you think that people are using it now rather than actually being an osteopath? They're using it as a stepping stone?
Yeah, if they keep the ATAR low and people just get in because they get in, and then they just do the course so they can get into physio, if that's what they want to do. I mean, I think maybe people need to start calling it and take responsibility. Are we telling people what osteopaths do? Like, do we actually know? But for those students and for those, I mean, I do know some good academic osteos who are also like they do understand osteo philosophy. So
definitely. I think
But I think maybe if you don't like the principles, if you're arguing with someone about what are the principles and do the principles work and are they true and whatever, then just walk away. And just leave the profession to the people who have read Dr. Still's books and still believe that it can be applied to our current state. Look, Ray Perrin, said he has taken the old stuff and he's cutting edge with what's out there now with brain lymphatics and chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. So it can be done.
Well, you don't want osteopathy, an osteopath by name only. Like, you don't want to be just an osteopath because you've got that registration paper. You want to practice osteopathy. And so you're right. I think if you don't think that the principles offer you anything, and you just want to look at purely evidence and be purely evidence based and go off that kind of mantra. It's probably best that you.
Joy thing. When you first interviewed me, you asked what planted the seed or what made you fall in love with it. And maybe if you're not in love with it, you're not going to be in love with it 50 years later. And if it does make money, but it's not like you don't make the money that you would probably make if you were a CEO of a company or you did IT.
Oh, no. You're not going to get, you'll live comfortably as an osteopath. Like, you'll do well. But you're not going to be a multi-millionaire, like, I always say that osteopathy is good for cash flow. Like, if you can make some decent cash flow and then go make some investments on the side, you'll probably do a lot. You'll probably do a lot better, But if you're thinking that you're just going to get there treating 4 days a week, and seeing it, you're going to just hang in there. And so look, it is a bit of a phenomenon at the moment where I think I don't want to get too much into the academic side of it. I think I still want to talk to academics and understand where they're coming from. But I think the best academics are the ones that have been osteopaths first. I like, for example, Gary Fry. I think Gary is somebody who's been an osteopath. He knows osteopathy. He studied the history of it, and now he's running a course at Vic Uni and he would have a total picture and understanding of what it takes to be an osteopath. On the other hand, I think if you've barely practiced 10 hours a week for 3 years and 4 years, and then taken over a course and is running a course, and gone straight into academia, you're not going to have the knowledge and understanding of what an osteopath's challenges will be as they get into private practice or even other fields of practice, like, it doesn't have to be private, but other fields of practice. And not so much just from the physical day-to-day mechanics of practice, but more so in the thought process in your head of what goes on when you see somebody in a private practice, or when you see somebody on the footy field, or when you see somebody in the retirement home or in the workplace. A good osteopath will always be applying those principles, that philosophy. Their osteopathic brain will always be thinking. And if you haven't nurtured that long enough and then gone straight into academia or whatever other field you want to go into, it's you're not gonna. I don't think your fruits aren't going to be as good as somebody who has done the hard yards and done the work in the trenches.
It's an annoying thing
So,
that
yeah,
when you're
that's,
in your first 5 years, you don't want to hear in your first 5 years that it's going to take 5 years, but it's going to take 5 years. It's going to take 5 years, I think, and
yeah.
yeah.
The thing is also, it's like, I see myself as a bit of an osteopathic conservative, if you want to kind of put me in a political pigeonhole of osteopathy. I'm an osteopathic conservative, and in saying that, conservatives don't really they just go about their day. They're in the clinic, they're treating, they're seeing their patients, they're probably mentoring a couple of people, they're going home, they've got families, they're doing their thing, and they tend to just kind of rinse and repeat, and they enjoy it. They're not loud about things. They're not kind of getting in there and doing the things like running courses and trying to get into universities and teach and so forth. It's like the people that are doing that seem to be now doing that as a career rather than as something that you just give back. If an osteopath has practiced for a while and they've done really well in clinic, now they want to give back and they want to go and teach. If you just get into teaching straight away, well, then you're not wanting to give back. You actually want to be an academic. And so I think buyer beware, buyer beware. Like if you're a new grad, if you're a student and the people teaching you don't have the clinical experience to kind of back that up, just buyer beware. That's just my opinion. You may not like it. If you want to have a chat to me about it, I'm always open to discourse. But
Yeah. Just students, if students are listening to this,
Elissa,
the students have to just get out there. Sorry,
you're
Sami.
going back.
Yep.
No. You're going back tomorrow to Dr. Perrin's course. And
Yes.
It'll be good to hear what you, I guess, maybe like the totality of it. That'll be good to know, especially that you're somebody that probably didn't go in there wanting to learn from an upskill point of view. So it'd be good to see what your take is on the actual way that he's constructed his technique and his actual way that he teaches, so that the structure and the mechanics of that. So that's really good. So I guess I'll be in touch with you to find more about that.
Good.
And it's always good hearing from you. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before we wrap up the podcast?
No, I think we're pretty good, Sami. It was a good one. So yeah, and I just let's ignite passion. Like osteopaths have fun. If you're not having fun, go find someone who loves it, like me, Sami. Find people who just passionately love it, and I'm an osteo nerd. My family gets so sick of it. I have to do these things so that my family get a break from me constantly harping on about how much I love my job. So that's why I have to do these things.
That's fine. Looking forward to the webinar. Excuse me. Looking forward to the webinar that you've got coming up. Please do reach out to me when you know exactly when that's happening, and I'll promote that for you, obviously with the listeners. For everyone, thank you for listening to this episode for the podcast. Elissa staying on the line with me. For everyone else, thank you again, and I'll see you on the next episode.